Welcome to the video demo of using Tableau. So if you have Tableau Public loaded up, this is what you should see when you load up the file. If you've done any sort of previous visualizations in Tableau Public, these should all be accessible for you up here. This is essentially the first screen that you see when you load up Tableau Public. So what we want to do is we want to connect to our data. So we're going to use this section here to connect to our data. If you have an Excel file with the extension .xls or .xlsx, any kind of Excel extension, you want to use this button right here. If you have CSV files, .csv files, then you'd want to use the text file option here to select that file. The reason for that is there's a lot of data that exists in the CSV format, which is comma separated values format. So Tableau handles it using the text file format. So let's go ahead and start with one of our CSV files. So let's go click on text file. And once you click that, it should open up a section for you to be able to grab or connect to any sort of data. So we're going to start with, in the first demos, the office supplies. So we'll hit open. So once you hit open, you're going to get to this screen here. So this screen here gives you kind of an overview of what the data is. This is the same kind of information you would get if you pull from, if you open up the Excel file, you'll get the same kind of information. Here you just want to make sure that all the data that exists in here is being classified correctly, right? So this is date, strings, and then numerical data here. Okay, and then the other thing is this area, we hadn't talked about it yet, but this is the area where if you have multiple different tables, you can actually connect these tables together, and that will give you the option to connect multiple different data tables into one big data table in Tableau, so you can analyze it all together. We're going to do more of that in the next section on Tableau. So once you have everything loaded up here, your data connection is here, everything looks good, you're going to go to your worksheet. So you click down here, go to your worksheet. And honestly here, it's just all about playing around. You just play around with your data. If you're doing data mining, data exploration, really it's just throwing things up there and seeing what kind of information or insights you can grab. There is this show me tab right up here, but this is not something I typically use, but if it's something that helps guide you towards, building some visualizations, I would say, feel free to use these kind of things, and they can help you kind of understand what requirements are needed to get to creating a visualization like a histogram, for example, or a pie chart, things like that. But I usually keep that closed. Here's all the information, all the fields from your data. All this stuff up here is called dimensions. So Tableau calls these dimensions. These are usually your independent variables. It's also, tends to be categorical variables up here as well. And then on the bottom here, you have all your measures, which are your dependent variables, often, numerical values or things that you want to predict. If something is wrong, for instance, your item is not supposed to be up here, you can always drag it to the bottom here. And that should move it down here as well, but that's not what we want. We want to keep item in the dimensions tab. So yeah, now we just play around with things, right? In the demo example, we wanted to answer the question or find out who was the top selling salesman and salesperson in the 3 regions. So the way that we ended up doing that is we wanted to look at the region, so we dragged region to columns, and that gives us, could go about it that way. So we wanted to see the different regions, but we wanted the representatives. So I'm going to move the representatives here. So this will give you all the representatives in each of the, since you have the region here, just delete that for a second. So you have all the representatives here. And if you move region to the front of that, you get all the individuals segregated by the different regions that they represent, essentially. Okay, Let's remove regions for now because we're going to add it in later. And one of the things that we did is we wanted to look at units, how much units were sold initially. So you can take units and you can drag them here into the rows. One of the things to keep in mind is, if you swap these around, it just changes the direction of your bar chart, really. So like I said, feel free to play around with the information that you see, with the options, and just see what works for you. Tableau, by default, aggregates all of this information together. So here you have sum of units. If you wanted to change to look at average units sold, you can kind of click here on the average to see that as well. So you have a lot of options to kind of modify the data that you are seeing. So we kept units here for now, and if we move region to just in front of the representatives, now we get all of this split up this way, and then we can go into this little option, this little button here, which if we click helps us order the information this way. If we wanted to add color, we added region into color to kind of segment that off. But you can do a number of different things, right? We also did representatives in color, which gives you a lot of color, and you just kind of play around. Let's see what happens if we do this. Yeah, interesting, right? So now you put color here. Now you get even a breakdown of what are the different things, the items that have been sold by each of these representatives, right? So, binders, right? That's very interesting. So you can, throw a number of these things and play around with what's happening. We're going to put region and color because that's what we wanted to do in that example. And then the other thing I wanted to show is that this is showing the number of items, units sold, but that's not what we want. We want to see, so let's get rid of that. We actually want to see who sold the most in terms of sales in dollar values. So to do that, we want to create a calculated field. So we'll just right click here, create calculated field, and we'll call it total sales in dollars. Oops, in dollars. And then here we'll do the equation for that, the formula for that, unit price times units. And then we'll hit OK. And we'll get total sales up here. If we move it up to rows, it'll be sum of total sales. We get these values here, and then we're just gonna order it appropriately again. And then now what we want to do is we want to add labels to each of our data sets, each of our data values here, and also modify or format the total sales axes here. And to do that, we're going to take total sales again, and we're going to move it to label. Okay, when that happens, we get all of these different types of labels on all the data sets. And what we're going to do is we're going to go here to the drop-down menu, click here, click on format. Now we get the options to modify the axis and the pane. Right, so let's go with the pane first. This is all the stuff here. And so we're going to go to the default option here, change the numbers to currency, and then display units in 10,000s and leave it as is. So we'll just drop that. And then we'll go to the axis and basically do the same thing. The numbers, we want to make them into currency values. Again, aggregate them in the thousands. We can decrease the decimal place. That should be fine, perfect. And that's everything here for our first visualization. Let's close that off. And every time, once you finish a visualization, you want to make sure in Tableau Public that you save to Tableau Public. And it makes it, shareable and all that kind of stuff. So you go up here to File, and you say Save to Tableau Public As. So click on that. And if you don't see this, you may have to create an account or log in to Tableau Public. But once you do that, you should be able to just throw something in here. Let's call it demo, I don't know, demo 10 or something. And then once you hit save, it'll open up a web page for you, and that will be the Tableau Public domain website.